calm down. Mama, I'm fine, don't worry. Go back out to sea, sail home, sweet home, where the ships must go to get all cleaned up and put away.
Welcome. Hello. Happy Friday, Miss Nicole. How the heck are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I am scared and a little worried because the network connection for some reason is a little funky right now. I see a little note at the top. I think we're okay. So I'm so sorry to those of you who are already listening or watching. If we start to cut out at all, just hang in there.
Or let us know.
Yes. Go team. Thanks, Teresa. Nice new logo, by the way. I don't know if people have noticed it. I love it.
What? I did not see this yet.
That thing is clean.
Wow. I like it.
Me too. All right, Nicole. Well, happy Friday, and happy Friday to all of you who are watching right now. I think we have a couple of people here on Facebook and another person on YouTube right now, which is great. If you guys can, as always, like we talk about every week, take a minute to subscribe on YouTube or follow us here on Facebook. If you could share this stream to families or support groups that may need to learn a little bit about what we're talking today. We're talking about IHSS. Yeah, our favorite topic. We're talking about timelines. I know this is something that Nicole is this topic is near and dear to her heart because she spends a lot of time talking with families about this timeline. Nicole, is that correct?
Yes, and I feel like you do as well a little bit. But yes, I definitely wanted to make this a point and kind of talk about this issue that we are dealing with statewide, and kind of just let you guys know about the reality of what's actually happening in the IHSS, world, and how long everything is taking for us. Because I do get some parents, and I totally understand, the frustrations and having to wait so long, and it's just you hear one thing and then another thing's happening, and then you're waiting forever, and then you never know, right? So I've been hearing a lot of people frustrated saying, well, isn't it supposed to take X, like 45 days or 3 months, and then it's taking like more than 6 months. So it's kind of like, I kind of want to definitely talk about that because I feel like it's just to make it easier for you guys.
Yeah, I love it. And I think this is a great topic. So we do have a little bit of a special twist today. So we will have some slides that we're going to be showing you about this timeline, some graphs. So hopefully it kind of clears it up for everybody and gives you a really good rough idea so that if you are starting the process, you know what's about to come, you know what the next several months are going to look like. Or maybe you're halfway through, or you're past the assessment at this point, you've been waiting months for a notice of action. What should you do? When should you expect it? So we're going to talk about all that stuff today. And so like a quick sneak peek, we're going to go over a graph like this in just a moment. Okay, so if you want to invite anybody to this chat today, this live stream, you most certainly can. Again, we are talking to individuals who have IHSS, want to pursue IHSS, or similar programs. Of course, they're going to have similar timelines, but today we're specifically highlighting the timeline of IHSS. And so we're going to go over, like Nicole said, the kind of what it should be, right? What is the timeline expectation when you read the regulations of IHSS? What is something that we as advocates who have been doing this for years, what have we been able to experience, and what is happening today as a realistic timeline? Right. Yeah. And I do apologize, everybody. It's being really laggy on my end. So feel free to let us know in the comments if our stream is okay right now and not laggy, or that you can hear us okay. And with the comments, feel free to drop a comment and say hi. You guys already know the drill. Let us know where you're from. Let us know what's going on. If you've got a question, we're here to try and answer. We'd love to hear from you guys today. Yes. All right, Nicole, are you ready to maybe jump into this timeline?
Of course.
All right. So to quick quickly go over it, I'm going to give it to you. So for people who are wanting to begin this process, do you want to kind of go, I'd say step by step, just quick overview of what the steps are to pursue something like IHSS?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm so glad to be here. I haven't been here in I don't even know how long, to be honest, on the English page. So I'm more than happy to join you, Caleb. And this is such an awesome topic. Like I said, like it's something it's very unique because it's something that we're dealing with right now at the moment. And it's been happening for the last couple months, but we are seeing the impact right now on all of our cases, even, with our own clients. So yeah, definitely I'm ready.
Great, let's do it. So I guess before we bring up the chart, do you want to just go over step by step of what the process looks like if somebody's never applied for this before, and even those who are maybe halfway through it, maybe some of the steps that they can expect?
Yeah. So typically when you let's say you found out that your kid has autism, you've got them into regional center, they're in special education, you did all the steps, and now you're trying to get more services for your kid, and you're kind of looking into IHSS because you notice that your kid needs more help with personal care, that maybe because of their mental disability, they are putting themselves in a lot of dangerous situations, example, running out the door, not knowing the danger of like hot stuff or whatnot, right? So then you want to apply for IHSS. You say, you know what, I want to see how many hours I can get. I stay at home, my husband works, I feel like a little bit of extra income for our family will help us, and to also just provide the care that my child needs, because that is what essentially the program is a provider gets paid to help the recipient with their daily needs, their personal care. So pretty much when you send the application, from that point, um, it's kind of like SSI, the money starts to count, right? So you send the application. From the application, you're going to, well, the way that it was traditionally, the IHSS process, right? Traditionally, you send the application and then you get the SOC 873, which is a healthcare certification form that is supposed to be filled out by their pediatrician, is their doctor. Um, and you'll get that document in the mail with a due date, typically anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. That was the timeline. And then from there, you have 45 days to turn in that. From the moment of the application, you have 45 days, right? A month, 6 weeks to turn in that document. So you get that document in the mail, you fill it out, and you return it back to IHSS. Once you return that document back to IHSS, that's pretty much verifying that the recipient qualifies, their application was accepted and they're meeting the requirements for IHSS. From there, it gives the social worker the go ahead to contact you. That contact can be anywhere from a week to like a month. That's typically the way it was. From there, you would have you schedule the assessment, have the assessment, and then in less than a month, you would have the notice of action, right? So that whole period was anywhere from 3 to 4 months. I was saying from anywhere from so that was typically how fast our process used to be with the applications, just new applications, with our clients, and typically how people would see that. So that's pretty much what the standard process for a new application is. Some counties are still, good on their timelines, and they are keeping that regular standard timeline. Some counties, like the bigger counties, is where you're starting to see more of the lag.
Okay. Love it. Thanks, Nicole. I think this might be a good time to jump into maybe a visual of what that timeline might look like, right? So
Yeah.
for something like this is something very both realistic as well as, where it should be, right? And so here, if those of you who are watching, you're welcome to take a screenshot of this if you'd like. But basically, this is a graph where the blue line will show you what it should look like when you're applying for IHSS. This is something, the timeline of how it's been for years up until recently. So recently, I'd say, I don't know, sometime in the last maybe year or two, the timeline has been slowly growing and growing to be a bit longer. So it's taking a lot longer to get approved for services. And that's not even just IHSS. And so, but for IHSS here, like Nicole said, if you're just going from application to assessment to getting your notice of action and then receiving funds from IHSS, as a caregiver, usually it has always taken about 3 or 4 months, depending on the county, right? We start on the left side here, month 1 being your application, right? And then usually sometime within the next couple of weeks, you're supposed to get the SOC 873 document in the mail. And then you have to have that returned and signed IHSS within 45 days of the date of that document when you get it in the mail, right? And so we are seeing some people, especially in counties like LA, where they're not even sending it within an appropriate amount of time, or you're not even receiving it at all. And so just so you know that if you've applied and it's been like a month or two and you have not heard from IHSS, you've not received that 873 in the mail yet, it's time to start following up. It's time, because your timeline is going to look like the orange one if you don't take action, right? And so if and when you do receive that 873, which they are supposed to mail to you, you don't have to wait for it to come in the mail. You can download it online, but they are supposed to mail it to you once they've received the application. And most counties won't even provide an assessment until they've received that 873 back from the doctor, right? And so just note that when you do receive it, you have technically 45 days. I like to say just plan to get that document done within 45 days of you submitting an application. And if you want to get it done and submit it with the application, that's perfectly fine. You just got to make sure that it's not too old. Make sure it's not 45 days previously signed the application date, right?
They won't take it.
That's right. They'll have you restart. And if you miss that 45-day deadline, whatever that day is that they give you, sometimes they'll tell you what it is and sometimes they won't. But if you miss that deadline and there's no good reason in their eyes as to why you miss it, they're going to terminate your application. You're going to have to start all over again. And so make sure you stay within that 6-week, 45-day window. And so once that SOC 873 is received, usually a few weeks later, you'll get called for an assessment, right? The in-home visit with a social worker. That's usually right at around month 2 if we're looking at the blue line, right? Now, again, right now, trending, we see it being more like 4 months after an application in a lot of counties, especially bigger counties like LA or San Bernardino, Riverside, San Diego. A lot of them are taking their sweet time on processing the application and conducting an assessment. And so this chart has been more of my evaluation. Nicole, do you feel like this is a pretty accurate representation of what we're seeing with a lot of families?
Yeah, I'd say for the majority of the counties, this is what it's looking like. And yeah, definitely is good.
Okay. Okay, good. And let us know too in the comments if you guys are applying, if you've already applied and you're at the assessment stage, where are you at in this stage? I want to hear it. I know Nicole wants to hear it because we would love to try and nail this down and see how we can maybe lobby and push the state to fix this issue, because we don't want it to continue, right? Yeah. It's not really fair to you as the caregiver for this loved one to have to wait 6+ months when you're not even appealing an issue. It's just them dragging their feet because of lack of resources, right? Now, of course, we understand if the county you're working with is limited on people who can support you and actually provide an assessment, like we get it. But at the end of the day, it's not your problem. I said at the end of the day, Holly, don't say anything. So with that said, it's not fair to have you wait 6 months in order for you to receive, these funds and these benefits that this person rightfully deserves, right? So the goal is a good timeline when you apply to have your assessment right around month 2 mark. Sometime in the next month or 2 is when you should have an assessment. And so if you've been waiting longer than that, just know you're in that reality, that delayed reality that we're talking about. So if you're going on month 3 and 4, just know it's coming. It's coming, but you are in a position where you're probably going to have to start reaching out to the county to ask for some updates because you really don't want it going any further than that, right? And so once the assessment is done, just so you guys are aware of the timeline. So Nicole, in your experience working with, hundreds of families over the last several years, usually when an assessment is completed, when is a good timeline expectation for people to get their notice of action, to get a decision on how many hours per month they're going to get from IHSS?
Yeah. So after the assessment, we've always said, wait, within 30 days, you should be receiving that notice of action, right? So that's why I say it all the time. I feel like it's like I sound like a broken record, but it's the truth. You know, after 30 days, if you don't receive anything, call them. And then from there, weekly basis, because best believe if you're not bugging them, you're not gonna be they're not gonna know who you are in a sense. So it's just like I would say maybe like not if you can't every week, every other week, but definitely like reach out to them because it can be either they're swamped or that they were going to get to it and then they couldn't, and then and sometimes they're just like, oh, they just forgot, and they're just like, oh, thank you so much for giving me a call. I'll work on that this week. So sometimes like it's they're also humans. They have hundreds of cases that they have to work on as well. And how Caleb was saying, the resources are getting cut from them. I know that a lot of the counties are going through it, with losing their staff and whatnot, right? Just a lot of cuts. So be mindful of that as well, but also, just also advocate for your recipient, be like, hey, it's been 45 days since we had our assessment. I haven't heard from you. Like, can I get like, even if it's just like, can you just give me like how much longer I have to wait? Like, just give me a timeline that I can support myself on, and just kind of know when to bug you again, or if you need me to contact you, kind of like try to work with them and kind of make their life a little bit easier in that sense. Obviously, if they're willing to work with you and have that communication, then I would definitely put your best foot forward and try to come up with a plan that can support them and your recipient at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And if those of you who are watching right now, if you're looking at this chart, please let us know if it's clear. I know this process is very confusing. Programs like IHSS, SSI, Regional Center, a lot of it can be really confusing. So we wanted to try and make this as clear as possible for everybody. So let me know. And Teresa mentioned that it feels like things have gotten worse since they were looking at the budget. Do we think this is a reason, or maybe it's summer vacations? So in my opinion, I feel like this has been an ongoing trend for the last year and a half plus, but I could say it's probably gotten worse since, February, March, April time, when they started to kind of talk about the big budget cuts and things like that. But I don't know. It's hard to say. What do you think, Nicole?
Yeah, I definitely did see I guess like the change last year a lot. I think we started seeing it with the notice of actions first. They were taking forever to send the notice of actions. They were doing the assessments, everything was good, like the whole from the application to assessment, everything was going well. And then right after the assessment is when the notice of action started taking long, and then longer, and then longer, right? So I think it started from there. And then not only that, but I also know that last summer a lot of the counties were behind in their annual assessments. So I feel like it's kind of that impacted these assessments that are happening this year, because last year they had to catch up with the annual assessments that they were behind. Because I'm having actually a lot of because I work on the reassessments team in our company, so I am present at the annual assessment for our clients. And I want to say I've had like at least 3 clients in the last 2 months that the last time they had their annual assessment or an assessment was in 2023. So they completely missed the 2024 one. So I feel like it's kind of that also, like they were falling behind from assessments. And so that kind of pushed back assessments. So I feel like that's why we're seeing the impact now, or we started seeing it towards the end of last year, that the assessment started taking a little bit longer, the notice of action started taking longer. And then ever since the May revision definitely has like pushed it to like even longer, because now we are having our advocates are sending multiple reminders and multiple faxes to the counties, and like, hey, like what's going on, hey, when are we going to do this whatever stage they're in. So I think it's a combination of everything, that it's kind of been like a domino effect that's been happening for the last 2 years, more so.
I think that's a very safe answer, because I think you're right. And I think most people would probably agree on that too. Amanda does have a quick question about regional center, just to quickly address it. So I'm sorry, Amanda, your question is in regards to having a personal assistant. Regional center, you have 132 hours of personal assistant. You have 283 hours of IHSS. Can you request more from regional center? Is there a limit? You said that they also have respite. So really quick on this one. So there's no maximums on respite or personal assistant, but there is a maximum cap on IHSS. So IHSS the max cap is 283. So you're already there. For the PA, the personal assistant, 132 hours a month is a lot. You're pretty close to like the most that people will receive. And so with respite, kind of the same thing. That's about as much as we typically see it, like 140, 120 into 100, I'm sorry, per month, excuse me. That's actually a lot more than what we normally see.
Yeah.
And so per quarter, that's pretty standard. So to quickly address it, there's no limit to respite or personal assistant. However, there will be a cap based on your schedule, okay? So you have 24 hours in a day. A portion of those 24 hours needs to be filled with the 283 hours a month of your IHSS. And then the remaining hours will be filled in with the respite, personal assistant, and then this individual sleep schedule, right? So if you want a breakdown of the schedule, the best thing you could do is to reach out to your regional center caseworker and say, hey, is there room in our day-to-day schedule to include more personal assistant or more respite? And so they're going to connect with you and they're going to ask you, okay, when does this person in school? When is this person in the day program? When are they in therapy? When are they at home with you where you're claiming the IHSS hours? Where is there room for more respite? Where is there room for more personal assistant? And if there isn't any room, then you're not going to get more time. So that's the only way you get more time is if there's room in the schedule.
I do want to add another detail too, that you need to have more availability in your schedule, and there actually needs to be a specific reason as to why you're needing an increase, right? Is there more, behaviors happening? Has it become like more of a physical job because he's gotten bigger or he's gotten older, taller? There has to be like an actual reason as to why you're asking for more hours, or like you're running out of hours. Like let's say you're using so many hours of PA, or that you're running out by like the 20th of the month or the 15th of the month, so you need to give like an actual reason as to why. You can't just say, oh, I just want more hours because I want my personal assistant here for a longer time. Like there needs to be an actual need to show that you need the increase of hours.
That's a very good point. Thank you for adding that in. We do have a timeline question from Brittany. So Brittany says that we're an OC and applied. Someone came out to reassess about a month ago and gave us all the documents, but said someone else is going to come out and assess again, even though we sent the paperwork. So would that still put us at the assessment category still? So technically, yes. So if we're looking at this timeline here, Brittany, so you were at the assessment, and we're now in that middle stage where we're waiting for a notice of action. We're waiting for that decision to come in. But the social worker said there's going to be another assessment. So we do see that from time to time, right? So Nicole, do you want to maybe explain what Brittany might be experiencing here and why the social worker might be having somebody else come out before they make a decision?
Of course, yeah, there can be a couple of things. So one can be that your other, like let's say you had the social worker came out, probably had to go on leave or something happened and she's not able to finish your case, so someone else is going to come in and do another assessment because they need to do the notice of action, right? That can be one of the reasons. Another reason is that maybe in the first assessment they didn't do a good assessment. They didn't get enough information, that it was very poorly written. So they're going to be like, you know what, we need someone else to come out and do like a more accurate assessment, right? Or sometimes it can be like they just need to do further investigation. Not saying that, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but sometimes if like they have an assessment and they need to do like a follow-up with the supervisor or someone higher up, and like because there's some suspicions of fraud or anything involving that type of stuff, that can be another reason why they're asking for another assessment. So it can be a multiple of things. I don't know if you have any other examples, Caleb, that you want to add.
I think that pretty much hits it. I think it's strange because it's not necessarily uncommon, but it's not usual. So it's a little unusual for the social worker to not be able to complete their assessment. So much so to the point where they have to have a completely different social worker. Now, the only thing that I can think of is they might be referring to the relationship advocate in this scenario. I'm sorry, social worker, excuse me. So the social worker, and again, this could be totally wrong, but the only time we ever hear of another social worker being brought into the conversation is when the intake worker says, hey, this is your first assessment. I'm the intake worker. After this assessment, all your future assessments will be taken care of by somebody else. It'll be another worker. And so I don't know if that's what they were referring to here, or if they literally just have to have a whole nother full-blown assessment. We do see social workers at times not gather everything that they need, so they'll follow up with you and say, "Hey, I met with you last month. We're still trying to nail down, the calculations of hours real quick, but I have a couple of clarifying questions." But usually they can accomplish what they need over the phone. They don't necessarily need to schedule a whole new visit. And so, yeah, we're not too sure, Brittany, but everything hopefully should be okay. To read your comment again, you said, we're an OC applied a month ago. We filled all the documents. Someone else is going to come and assess again, even though. Yeah, so what I would do is maybe reach out to the county and clarify. You can also just reach out to that social worker and say, hey, are you saying that I'm having another worker come out like soon, or are you referring to next year's assessment? I'd maybe clarify that and see what they say. All right, we do have a question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say something. I was gonna say it can also be something scandalous, like the social worker that was working there is no longer with the county, and so they need someone else to come out. So it's like, because especially right now, we're seeing a lot of like decrease of like employment, because we've had counties tell us like, like we don't have as much personnel, so that's why it's taking us longer. So it can also be just like the effects of what's actually happening in the counties, and maybe it was someone that worked on your case and just suddenly left or suddenly moved departments, so they need someone else to come in. So yeah.
Yeah, and Brittany said that makes sense. It's her first time applying. So yeah, feel free to reach out, Brittany, or if you have any more questions, drop them below. We'd love to try and address them. All right, we do have a hearings question from what it looks like from Miss Marcy. My sister's hours were reduced from 283 to 102. I sent an appeal request August 13th. They got the acknowledgement of the request. Then my sister, who is deaf and severely impaired, what should I expect? Okay, I think it might be time for us to jump into our appeals timeline. Would you agree?
Yeah, this is actually perfect. Thank you, Marcy.
All right, Marcy, hopefully we can answer your question here. By the way, we're sorry about the decrease. And so if you have questions about it, I'm happy to review a notice of action with you. You're welcome to call our office. Our calendar's a little booked up, so we may be a few weeks out. But if you want somebody to review the hours with you to see maybe what the county is doing, why would they decrease it so much? And is it protective supervision? Is it standard hours? Like where is that decrease coming from? We'd love to take a look at it.
There's 2 more comments of hers, but
there is. Yes, she got a letter from the appeals officer who wants to chat, but she didn't answer the phone. Okay, we can absolutely address that. Hours cut because she goes to a day program. She always went to a day program. Okay, so there's definitely something fishy going on here, right? So we'll definitely talk about that, Marcy. But as far as like what you can expect, Nicole, do you want to go ahead and kind of share? So she filed for the appeal. She said back on August 13th. So it has been about 3 weeks, and she's already received a letter from the appeal specialist. What are some expectations for Marcy moving forward?
Yeah, so for Marcy, so now that you got the acknowledgement letter saying that they received your appeal request, you will have an appeals rep trying to contact you, trying to figure out whether you guys can come to an agreement, whether it's doing another assessment or just pretty much an agreement. Sometimes it can not be the best agreements where it benefits them more than you. But pretty much they're gonna try to contact you, come to an agreement, settle something between you guys, so it doesn't have to go in front of a judge. And if you guys don't come to an agreement, then you have to wait for a hearing date that gets scheduled, and then you have your hearing, and from there you have to wait for the judge's decision typically. But with hearings, it's a lot more complex because you have a judge that needs to hear both sides, and I just want to throw it out there, but it's just, it can get very difficult in the sense, because sometimes like the recipient or the provider have difficulty expressing, what they're fighting for or the reasonings for it, so it can sometimes be skewed and be more supported towards the county. But timeline wise, that's pretty much what you're going to expect is get a contact from the appeals rep. If there is no agreement, then it goes to a judge. And then from there, you have to wait for a decision from the judge.
Yep. And that timeline is shown here. This is another graph that's not very pretty. It's looking a little ugly, especially those red and green numbers on the right side of your screen, right? 9 months to 10 months, 12 months, 13 months or longer. So right now, again, this green line that we're looking at here, this is like, again, what we've seen for years that people can expect when it comes time to, oh, hopefully I'm seeing the right one. Hold on, let me remove this other one. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is the appeals timeline here, okay? And so we still include that application and assessment notice of action part of this process, but we included what you might look at after and beyond, where Marcy's at. Marcy's at the appeal stage, right? So again, traditionally, if you're going to file an appeal on something for like IHSS here, you have 90 days to file an appeal. So you'll see that here on the chart. When you receive that notice of action, your 90-day window starts to appeal from the date of the notice. So if you miss that 90 days to appeal, then you will not be able to appeal that notice, right? So most people, of course, not most, some people will file the appeal immediately upon receiving the notice of action, especially if they already have hours established. But if you're brand new to this process, you just applied, it might be best to not necessarily appeal right away, right? You have 90 days. You have 90 days for a reason. That allows you to do some research. It allows you to connect with your social worker. It allows you to reach out to advocates such as us to ask for counsel and some support. Maybe even retain or hire an advocate or a lawyer to help you, right? This gives you time to sort of prepare for that. But if you use up about a month or two of that timeline, which is not a bad idea to use, the expectation of getting your hearing, this is where people start to get a little confused and frustrated. The appeals timeline you got to expect it to take 6 months right now, right? When you file for the appeal, it takes a few weeks and then you'll get that letter in the mail, like Marcy mentioned. She got an acknowledgement letter. So you'll get that. You'll get that usually as the first thing when you submit the appeal request. It might take a couple of weeks, few weeks, but it's just a letter saying, hey, we got your request. We see that you filed an appeal. Yeah. Once you get that letter, the next stage is what Nicole mentioned, right? The appeal specialist to reach out. Their job is to try and find a resolution so that you can avoid the hearing with a judge. It may take 2 months to get that phone call or that letter from the appeal specialist, right? And it may take another month to actually get a date with a judge, right? So from filing your appeal request to actually getting a day with the judge, it may take 3+ months. And that's before we talk about postponements, right? The county can request a postponement. They may not be ready in time. The social worker may not be available that day that it's scheduled. So it might get postponed. And if it gets postponed, that's another month out, right? So that's right. And so the hearing process, like Nicole said, is very complex. It's very frustrating, I would say. And that's just the timeline. We haven't even really gotten to the nitty-gritty, like Nicole was mentioning briefly, about what takes place in the appeal, what happens during the hearing, right? This is just the timeline. So once you finally have your hearing and you meet with your judge, there is also another problem that you can expect. The judges very rarely will ever come to a decision at the hearing. Like almost never. The only time that ever really happens is if the social worker, or I'm sorry, if the county like sort of gives the judge a decision to make, right? If the county or you are in the hearing and you stipulate in the middle of it and you say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to accept whatever position this is. Then that's a judge can of course stipulate and just cancel the hearing right then and there, right? But if you're arguing something like protective supervision or Marcy here, a large chunk of hours, and you're standing by your position and the county is standing by their position, then the judge is going to be forced to have to make a decision. So they won't make a decision in that hearing. They will have, and again, this is the very frustrating part. I hope you're sitting down, okay? Technically, the rules say the judges will be given 30 to 60 days to make a decision, okay? They are allowed 30 to 60 days. However, Nicole, do you want to share with our Galt advocacy family today here what is actually happening? What are we seeing more of right now?
Yeah. So, and like I said, the whole reason why we're doing this specific topic is to bring to light, the reality of like what all the families are going through and how much frustration has, accumulated. But I'm just going to give you guys one example to keep it very simple, but we can literally tell you that from here in the office, we're waiting for a decision back from April, May. That was like 4 or 5 months ago. And that's just
Yeah.
one example of the many. So I'm telling you, even with the due dates, how Caleb was saying, after the hearing, the judge has anywhere from 30 to 60 days to release their decision. Yeah, we have due dates that say January, that say February, that say March, April. We actually just got one back. We got a decision, I want to say like a month ago, that was due back in December, and that was like 8 months over, so it's just like the reality of it has your patience. You're gonna need to have it like up there, because it's no joke, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. And the accountability factor of this is really frustrating because it seems as though the state is not being held responsible for some of these errors like they used to. So back again, not too long ago, just a couple of years ago, if a judge was late on a due date for a decision, that was a big no-no. That was a big problem, where not only would the state be fined for that, like Nicole just mentioned, but they would owe the family compensation and interest. There'd be interest on the decision. So if you got approved services, you're not just getting back pay for what you got approved for. They will pay you like some interest per day. But we're not seeing that implemented at all right now. It's really frustrating. And so I'm really sorry to all of you who have had a hearing months ago and are still waiting on a decision. We just want to reiterate and let you know that you're not alone. And we are seeing this across the entire state and every county. And so one thing to take in consideration, I've mentioned this a couple of times about what the appeals world is with these judges. So for IHSS, there's a specific department in state hearings, and that is the IHSS judges. So they have 26 seats available for judges. That means 26 judges who can make decisions on IHSS appeals. Okay. When you think about that, you're like, okay, that's great. There's a dedicated department just for IHSS, and we have 26 judges, right? I don't know what the appeal account was for 2024 or 2025, but I know in 2023, we looked at the numbers. In 2023, there was, and don't quote me on this because I'm just trying to quote it from memory here. There was 500,000 appeal requests made for social services in California, the year of 2023, like 500,000 requests. And then I think it was 20% of that was IHSS. So 20% of 500,000, what is that? That's like 50 odd thousand appeals, right? And then a huge chunk of that was protective supervision cases, right? And so when you think about tens of thousands of appeals where only 26 judges are able to hear these decisions, get them on their calendar, and then wrap up decisions before the due date. And then again, that's assuming that all 26 seats are open and 26 seats are filled. We have no clue how many judges are on the panel right now. There could be 18 for all we know, right? And all of them are relatively new. They're all judges who we never saw before they created this 26 seat slot. That's new as of like 2021 or 2022. So beforehand, they had lots of judges, but that was a different story, different situation. So just some things to consider. We do have a couple of questions I think we might want to get to. Nicole, what do you think?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Oh, so Brittany said, that makes, oh, I'm sorry. Brittany here, you said the social worker said someone will be coming within a month to randomly come out to do an assessment. Yeah, that's odd. It's very odd. So let us know what happens. I'd be curious to know why. I'm almost leaning towards Nicole's conspiracy theory as to maybe why the social worker might be coming out. It could also be something as innocent as the social worker is no longer there anymore, and they don't have the county just doesn't have their notes from the assessment. So yeah. It could just be that. But
where I had that actually happened to one of my cases. Ooh, a while back. I haven't really been
Yeah.
running that many cases now, but I had a case once where we did the assessment. The social worker did not do her assessment notes. So when they looked at it, they're just like, they thought that the assessment never happened because literally it wasn't even uploaded. Like if it never happened. But we're just like, we literally sat with her for over an hour. Why? How is there no notes? So it has happened. Would I suggest, Brittany, one thing I do want to advise to you when this person comes, get their full name and ask who they are. Are they a supervisor? Are they a health nurse, public health nurse? You need to know their title and where they're coming from. I would definitely suggest that, getting their full name and their title.
Yeah, I agree. And real quick, before we move on to the next question, how are we doing, y'all? Are you guys liking these lives? Are you guys liking this outline, this topic today, this graph? Let us know. If you guys want to hop on Google, leave us a review. That would be wonderful. Let us know how we can maybe improve, or if you found something helpful here that you want to share with somebody so that they may want to reach out to us to get some information. We have a lot of information to share, and we would love to share it with as many people as we can. And so Google reviews are always really, really helpful if you have time to do that.
Yep.
All right. So Teresa, thanks for being a mathematician. So I'm going to correct myself. So the reason why I said 50,000 was because I remember seeing the number 60,000. I think there was like 60,000 IHSS appeals. And so they said something along the line. I'm trying to remember because I went to the conference, the Asilmar conference, and they had the numbers all up there on the screen. And so they were showing us the amount of appeals, and it may not have been 500,000. It may have been a little bit less than that, but I remember something around 60 something thousand were just IHSS appeals, which is like, that's crazy considering how the wait times were not bad back then. So I can only imagine what those numbers look like today. So something we're going to look at for sure. All right, Miss Sarah, hello, welcome back. So glad you're here. Jessica, with a reassessment, is it date they really or the date were they supposed to do it? Like if an assessment was due in November, but they came in February. Okay, so you're talking about like annual assessments, proposed assessment dates. So just real quick on this, if it's your first assessment, then they're usually going to come out whenever they give you the heads up of that date, right? But if it's an annual assessment, it's something that you're looking forward to next year. This is what Nicole was mentioning a little bit earlier. So yes, they're supposed to come out around the same time every year, but we do see a lot of people who, if they were assessed in November last year and now we're getting close to November and they're like, okay, I haven't heard anything yet. What's happening? What should I do? But then in February, months later, they get a call, right? That's pretty normal. I would say that's pretty normal. It's what's the word I want to use? So it's not a problem for them to be a little late on the annual. The only thing that I would say, and Nicole, you can let me know how you feel, if there's been a change and you need to notify IHSS, I can understand how if they don't contact you, that can be frustrating because you're like, whoa, I'm supposed to have my assessment and I need to tell them about these changes. If that's the case, then don't wait for them to reach out to you if they're late on the annual. Call them and let them know about the changes. That way you can prompt a change of assessment, a change of need assessment, right?
She wants to know if next year's February or November.
Yeah. And and to add to that, Jessica, yes, technically the annual is supposed to happen around the same time, right? So if it was due in November, it's supposed to happen every November, right? But the county also has anywhere from 12 to 18 months to conduct your assessment. So them contacting you in February, they are still within their time frame. So, and now we're even seeing that they're also contacting clients before the 12 months. So it's been like, let's say it's been 10 months since your last annual assessment, and they'll be like, hey, we're trying to get you in before it gets later because we don't have any, like that month, for example, if yours was due in November and they're contacting you in September, October, that's okay too, because they're just like November, especially November, December holidays, it gets really hectic and a lot of people take a lot of time off. So also expect, or don't be surprised if they contact you before like 2 months before your assessment, that's also totally fine. So I'd say anywhere from 10 to 18 months. Yeah, that which is a year and a half, right? 18 months. So yeah.
Love it. I agree. And real quick, we do have a few more questions here. So this timeline, just so everybody knows, this is not a formal timeline graph here. This is just something that we kind of put together from what we are seeing, right? So this may not be your timeline, right? You may experience something totally different. This is not something generated by IHSS or anything like that. This is something that we created to show you a trend that we're seeing with the families we work with. Okay.
Yeah.
So just a heads up, everybody.
Our observations, our experiences.
That's right. Teresa, is there someone you can bring the delay to if you aren't getting a decision? Who do you go to?
If you wait, what?
So if your case is being delayed, right? If you're waiting for months, who do you go to? What do you do if you are waiting?
You can't wait forever.
Come on, Nicole.
If is there someone you can bring the delay to if you aren't getting a decision from a judge? You have to. I think you can contact like their what is it?
Like,
Their
can you talk to the hearings rep, or can you
You
file
can-
another motion of non-action?
you can contact the hearings rep for sure. But to be quite honest, I don't know if there really is anybody above the judge that you can go to.
So to my understanding, and gosh darn it, I wish we had Mr. Dakota on. He probably would know. To my
Right?
understanding, yeah, to my understanding, in the appeals world, if it's regarding a judge's decision that's late, I do think there's a quality assurance department in state appeals that you
Okay.
can call. I forget the term, but basically it's like an accountability department, compliance department. That's what I was trying to think of, compliance department. I think I've heard Myra talk about it before. Myra Galt of Galt Advocacy, forever ago. I think she mentioned it. We might have even talked about it in a live not that long ago, I think. But I think there might be a compliance number or email that you can reach out to and say, hey, this is what's going on. My due date was last month for this decision and I haven't got it yet, right? We'll do some digging for you to see if that's true or if I just dreamt about that and let you guys know. Now, if it's if it's regarding like your assessment, right? If we're not talking about the appeals, but the assessment timeline, if you have your assessment and you're just waiting months for a notice of action, then just call the county, speak to a supervisor. You can say, hey, your social worker XYZ Jane Smith said that I'd have a decision by August 1st, but it's September 5th now. It's been 5 weeks. What's going on? And you can usually push the needle along a little bit that way by kind of just nudging a supervisor at the local level. But once it goes into state hearings, it's a completely different ballpark.
Yeah. Also with like sometimes I don't know, but this has happened quite a bit, but where there is a notice of action, but it never got to your house, and then you call the receptionist or you call like IHSS and they're like, oh yeah, we have a notice of action in file for you. And then they resend it.
Another reason why you shouldn't wait months and months and months. So it is very common, like Nicole said, to call the county and say, where's my notice of action? It's been months. And they're like, it's done. We sent it to you. And you're like, no, you didn't. I never got it, right? They could have very easily sent it to the wrong address. Maybe you moved before and had to change your address and they made an error. Maybe they, I don't know, didn't send it. Is that possible? They just didn't send it, but telling you they sent it, right? The issue with that too is if you miss that deadline to appeal, it doesn't really matter if they sent it or not. If they generated a notice, they're going to find some type of proof to say that they mailed it to you, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's good. Don't wait 3 months to call. If it's been a month and you haven't gotten anything yet, call, follow up, keep following up. If you're around 2 months past the assessment and you haven't received an answer, that's when you can probably start making some complaints, and maybe even at that point, just go ahead and file for an appeal on just lack of compliance at that point. Okay.
Yeah, something related to the mail, like certain, especially like apartments or like duplex places like that, like sometimes they put it in the wrong mailbox. So sometimes it has nothing to do with you or the county and everything to do with the mail, So that's another, there's just and that's what I always tell everybody. I'm like, with stuff with IHSS and the hearings, there's just so many variables and so many people involved that it can get very complicated, or things can get lost very easily.
Yeah, and Jessica said that she had I assume she meant she had her appeal, like her hearing in June, and it's a September, July, August. I mean, you were 2 to 3 months in, and you haven't gotten a decision from a judge. If that's the case, I would start bugging state hearings, and so call the state hearings phone number to let them know that you're waiting, and then ask about the compliance thing. Right? Ask them, who do you talk to? Say, I'm very frustrated right now because the judge is late on their decision. That's not okay. I know my rights. So find out for us, Jessica. But no, we'll do some research as well. And then we got a few comments of people saying, yes, they find this information helpful. Thank you. Love it. And Teresa, of course, leave us a review if you guys can. That'd be wonderful.
Yep.
All right. We are...
Hold on, one thing. To answer CC,
sure.
Yes, they have to do an assessment every single year. It's part of the requirements for IHSS, more so because sometimes the needs change, especially with kids as they grow, and if they're not becoming, independent and they're needing the help, they start qualifying for more hours, or sometimes it can be the opposite where they just don't qualify for the program anymore. So yes, every year an assessment has to be made. That is a requirement and a law that they have. So yeah.
Great. I'm so sorry, CC. I almost missed that question. Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate you.
No problem.
All right, everybody. We're about out of time. Nicole has to jump on her next live, which is going to be in Spanish. So you guys already know the drill. If you speak Spanish and you want to connect with Nicole here in the next 5 to 10 minutes, she's going to be going live again, going over some of this same information here, the timeline of IHSS, the application all the way through the appeal process. And so if you know somebody who would benefit listening to Nicole's stream over my stream today, then go watch Nicole, share this stream with them. Or share Nicole's stream with them, tag them in that stream that's going to come up here in a moment. So Nicole, thank you so much for joining me today. I was worried I was going to go solo because Mr. Dakota is doing something super fun. He's on vacation. I don't know who let him go on vacation. Not okay.
I don't know either.
I'm gonna have to meditate a little bit until he gets back, just to kind of hold in my, frustration. I'm just kidding. No, everybody wished Mr. Dakota a wonderful vacation. Hopefully safe travels back, Lord willing. But with that said, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in like you guys do every single week. Again, tag a friend, share the stream if you can. It's always really, really helpful. Leave us a review on Google if you can. But we'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope everybody, and Nicole, I hope you have a wonderful Friday and enjoy your weekend. And we will see you all next time.
All righty. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye, everybody.